Once, under Arthur's rule, a top knight from Camelot disappeared. No fight, no body. Only tales in the woods about a wolf that stared like a person. Left behind by someone close, struck by old spells, stuck halfway between human and animal for nearly a decade. His name faded. Yet everything shifted the moment the king met those wild eyes deep in the trees. Hold on tight. This old story hides shadows beneath its surface. Back when Arthur ruled from shining Camelot, surrounded by knights sworn to honor, one man moved through the tales quieter than the rest. Not famed for grand battles or vows kept under pressure, but marked by something eerie instead. Sir Maroc bore a burden unlike Lancelot's sorrow or Gawain's trials. He slipped into myth through a strange and twisted path. Mentioned just once in Malory's Le Morte d'Arthur, his presence lingers like smoke after fire. That slim passage calls him the good knight that was betrayed with his wife, for she made him 7-year a werewolf. A phrase odd enough to stick in minds across centuries. Since then, others have stared at those words, trying to glimpse what came before them, what tale got erased. His name floats where courtly grace meets wild forest belief, where loyalty wears fur and trust turns fang-shaped. What if a beast wore armor instead of fur? That question haunts the tale of Sir Maroc, unlike any werewolf told around fires. Not summoned by full moons or bloodlust, his fangs came through deceit, his spouse's secret love, maybe dark spells whispered at midnight. Women wielding unseen forces. That idea isn't just old storytelling flair. In legends where knights ride hard and die young, figures such as Morgana or the lake-born lady twist fate using quiet power, hidden hands. Yet little remains about the man beneath the snarl and steel. Sometimes old writings hint that Maroc stood close to Arthur long before most tales begin. During the war with Emperor Lucius, he fought beside famous warriors. Lancelot, Bors, Kay, not just near them, yet part of the inner circle. These records mention him only briefly. Still, they tie him tightly to Camelot, a place where duty-bound men like brothers. Seeing his name listed among heroes implies people once told his story often. Maybe late into nights, warning how treachery and secret powers could undo even respected knights. His change from warrior to beast came not by divine wrath nor infernal spell, instead through acts of someone trusted. Some versions, drawn from fragments and older myths, claim his own wife took up forbidden knowledge, likely taught by some hidden wise woman, and turned it upon her husband. It turned out Maroc's change into a wolf had everything to do with what he wore. Every time he became a beast, he stashed his outfit somewhere hidden. If the clothes stayed lost, so did his human shape. By taking them and keeping them far away, she locked him into fur and fangs. For 7 winters he wandered the trees on 4 paws, never able to return. That kind of magic, bound to fabric and secrecy, shows up in old legends across Europe. Becoming a wolf meant more than growing claws. It peeled back layers of rank, duty, order. What one wore told others who they were supposed to be. Ropes of wool and linen held threads of power, belonging, name. Stolen garments led to more than fur and fangs. His spouse took not only fabric, but dignity, rank, title. Everything tied to knighthood vanished overnight. Stripped bare, he roamed as an outcast, seen as danger rather than defender. Ordinary people shied from him. Trackers chased shadows he never meant to cast. Oddly enough, tales whisper differently about how he acted among trees. Not rage, but reason guided his steps. While legends paint beastmen tearing through villages, Maroc moved quietly, avoiding conflict, sparing even small animals. Innocent passers-by found safety, not threat, in his presence. Still, traces linger. Old stories whisper how a person's core stays fixed, untouched by any shift in body. Though turned beast, Maroc held fast to honor, steady faithfulness, quiet control, a hunger for what is right. Seasons rolled by while he moved along the borders of villages and forests, never settling inside, never vanishing completely. Men chasing game often let him walk free, struck by an odd calm in the way he carried himself. Lords out with hounds sometimes caught sight across fields. A huge wolf, yes, but gaze sharp, deep, almost noble, as if some ancient rank survived beneath fur and fang. For anyone who looked close enough, really paid attention, he wasn't just some creature. He carried a quiet depth, like someone lost mid-step between 2 lives. The shift in Maroc's long isolation didn't happen because he fought free. It unfolded when a ruler stepped into the story, one whose kindness ran as deep as his understanding. Once, while chasing game far inside the forest where Marok roamed alone, the king's hunting dogs trapped the wolf near a thicket. Yet when jaws snapped and men drew nearer, the animal broke every rule, slowly moving toward the monarch, laying his front legs beside the horse's stirrup, gaze steady, full of unspoken plea. He didn't growl nor bolt. Instead, dignity marked each motion as though appealing for something beyond survival. That moment, the stillness, the silence, lit up inside the king, awakening wonder, maybe even memory of old truths about worth hiding beneath rough edges. The order came quietly. His soldiers lowered their weapons when the king raised a hand. Not just any wolf walked there, people whispered. Instead of attacking, everyone stood still, eyes fixed on the creature who carried himself like royalty even in chains. Curiosity took hold of the ruler. He said, "Bring it alive, do not harm it." A choice that shifted everything for Sir Marok. From that moment on, inside Camelot's stone rooms, reactions split between wonder and dread. Talk grew fast among servants and knights about monsters hiding deep within King Arthur's woods. Still, when King Arthur looked into the creature's quiet gaze, what struck him wasn't danger, instead a deep, thinking sadness. Not once did the wolf strike first, nor respond with violence toward anyone sharing bread or roof space. In how it held its body, there lingered an echo of knighthood, as if beneath fur and fang lived a soul shaped more by duty than hunger. Yet no amount of kindness from Camelot could mask the shadows lingering behind its stare. Each time unknown lords arrived, figures linked to shifting alliances, the air around the beast changed. Something inside him snapped when they came close. His stillness broke into rage, each snarl measured, eyes locked with cold intent, like an old wound waking up at their presence. Out of nowhere, fury would flare in Marok's eyes. Sharp, targeted, never random. That anger wasn't just wild instinct, it fixed on certain people, like an arrow finding its mark. One day, someone at court noticed a face in the crowd, a woman said to be the missing wife of the tormented knight. Stories had buried her under shame and mystery years ago. Now, murmurs curled through stone corridors claiming she turned against him, slipped into another man's arms, twisted fate with spells and lies. The wolf didn't attack anyone, only those tied to what he once trusted. Those actions spoke louder than gossip ever could. So Arthur stepped in, pulled threads together, set investigators moving before judgment took root. A hush fell as attendants placed the dusty cloak on stone steps, its folds stiff from years beneath a trader's floorboard. That moment, high windows cast sharp lines across faces waiting. Would fur peel back into skin like legend claimed? Courtiers held breath while shadows stretched, wondering if bones remembered how to stand upright again. Not one paw moved toward fabric, though light caught every thread just so. Silence grew roots between flagstones. A scent caught his attention, made him pause. Then came the weight of stares, lords and warriors watching too closely. Sadness filled his eyes, a lifetime of being different showing through. A few thought he'd lost who he once was. Others murmured about old wounds, how deep pain can freeze someone in place. The king saw it differently. He knew change doesn't happen under bright lights or loud voices. It needs space, silence, people who won't stare. One by one, guests were sent away until only trusted hands remained. Into a hushed room the wolf was guided, far from ceremony. Time stretched on. Outside, those left behind sat still, minds drifting between doubt and something softer. Only then did the heavy doors swing wide, revealing inside what almost nobody had dared hope for. Sir Marok on the bed, back in his own shape, like someone rising after decades lost beneath nightmares. Gone now was the beast, replaced not only in flesh but deep within. Yet something lingered behind his stare, a mix of pain held tight and strength earned through wild nights without name. A hush cracked into scattered gasps across the chamber. One old guard insisted he caught the scent of moss and damp bark with each slow inhale. Another whispered how faint lines traced his arms, as if bark had once split open to let him free. Forward came King Arthur, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear, full of respect and kindness when he spoke Marok's name among the knights again. That instant changed everything. Camelot wasn't just seeing a lost warrior come home, it was watching truth push lies aside. Back within the castle walls, Maruk found fresh direction, steady and quiet. Years spent alone, treated like some wild creature no one could reason with. He carried those without shame. What followed wasn't pride, but calm strength earned through pain, peace rebuilt because someone chose to forgive. Knights who once knew nothing of his pain now saw something different in Maruk. Not a beast, just someone who endured. Still, peace does not always follow sorrow. Word passed through halls and stables alike about the ones who harmed him, the woman and the man at her side. Justice came, some said, shaped by what Camelot held right. One version tells exile, names erased, rank torn away. Another speaks of darker ends left unrecorded. Facts thin out when years pile up. What remains is how each retelling carries a weight, quiet, inevitable, like footsteps fading down stone corridors. Out here, tucked between broken lines of old texts, is Maruk. Just pieces remain, yet they carry weight. What lingers isn't about bloodlines or titles, but how a man stands when loyalty cracks beneath him. The wolf he becomes does not snarl at shadows. It walks like someone who has lost much, then found something worth returning to. This version of the beast doesn't frighten. It reminds of shame, yes, but also quiet courage. Other stories echo this path. In one, a knight cannot change back because his wife hides his clothes, trust gone cold. Another tells of love twisted by deceit, where fur replaces flesh after betrayal cuts deep. These are not warnings shouted into dark woods. They hum lower, asking what we become when everything familiar burns. Maybe Maruk only gets a line in Mallory because older stories about him faded, yet still hum beneath folk tales from distant places. Now Maruk feels like smoke just out of reach. Part warrior, part wild creature, broken by betrayal, rebuilt through kindness and what's right. Who he really was does not come from appearance or what others saw, but from standing firm when it mattered most. Each time his story resurfaces, there's always that dark outline beside him. Proof that dignity doesn't vanish, even after long silence.